I would like to invite our viewers today to another exciting episode of Present Truth. Today I have with me Tom Stapleton, and I'm Rob Swearingen. I will be the host. And Tom, today I would like to ask you a few questions about divisions in Bible study and what's causing it. You know, there's the calendars that seem to people don't want to agree to certain days, so they go their way, and the Sabbaths, the months, the annual feast. These are the things that I hear, and I was just wanting you to shed a little light on them if you could.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. There is a lot of division in the body these days, and you've probably encountered it yourself. I've encountered it on a number of occasions. And there's some root causes to it. And I think, you know, we're not authorities on this, but we're trying to come to grips with it. You know, what are things that are causing division? And like you say, the calendar is one. So I'd just like to back up in something that I've noticed in my own walk and in other people's walk. And I think we can all attest to this. I think our viewers, if they would ask a question to themselves, is, am I causing division, number one? But why would we cause division? If we can go right back to the beginning, most of us that are in this movement, the Messianic type movement, the Hebrew roots type movement, we're not foreigners to standing up and be counted. Correct. So we all came from, whether you were a Baptist, whether you were a Pentecostal, whether you were a Mormon, a Jehovah's Witness, a Seventh-day Adventist, it doesn't matter what it was, is we left where we were, and it's because we were willing to stand up and say, hey, this is not right. And so those are the kind of people that make up the Hebrews root movement.
Correct.
That's just the kind of people we are. So we're not foreign to causing a division or splitting away or so on. So you've got a group of people that have come together willing to be different, and they're still willing to be different. So if they come to something in the Bible that they think they need to stand up and say, hey, I will not tolerate this, or this is worth dividing on, they're not foreigners to that concept.
Correct.
So and I'm going to use the word predisposed. We're actually, the people in the Messianic Hebrew roots movement are predisposed to be willing to be different. And so I'm studying something in here, and I say, well, this is really important. It's so important to me that I'm going to leave this fellowship because they do not see this. We're willing to do that. We've proven that. We're here because of that. So it's not a strange thing for them to continue to do that, for any one of us to continue to do that. There are issues that are a dividing line for me. I'm not going to cross this. In my mind, I've got this issue, and if it comes to this, I'm willing to walk away from this fellowship if they do this. We all have those dividing lines. Now, you brought up the calendar.
Right.
That's an issue that people are willing to divide over. Because let's face it, they divided over that issue when they left a Sunday church. They wanted to keep Sabbath. So the Sabbath was a dividing line for them. So to continue on that line of dividing, now we have the feasts that we're talking about. And I've jotted a couple things down here. You know, when it comes to the calendar, the first point I have is, when does the day start? So now we're at a dividing line on when the day even begins.
Correct.
And why is that an issue if it starts in the morning or if it starts in the evening? Well, it does make a difference, because now if you believe it starts in the morning and I believe it starts in the evening, if we're going to fellowship together and give each other that latitude, then that means Sabbath starts at Friday night. And it ends Sunday morning. So the Sabbath now is actually 36 hours if we're going to fellowship together. Now, I have to ask the question, is that crossing the line in Scripture where in the Torah it says that you shall neither add or take away? So to me, this is an issue that is bringing contention, and rightly so, because, and we're not going to get into which is right and which is wrong. We're looking at the issues that are bringing contention. The other one is, and it's tied in with this, is the morning and the evening sacrifice. So is this time, was it all about the sacrifice, or was it actually about a morning and evening worship time? So this is now becoming an issue, and our camp is called Camp to Meet, and the reason why we called it Camp to Meet was to draw attention to this worship time. Now, should this worship time take the place where now we're going to cause division over it? I don't know about that. Now, how about the Sabbath? When is it? Is it on Wednesday this month, or is it on Thursday this month, or is it on Saturday? When is the Sabbath? So now we've got the Sabbath as also being an issue, and that leads to the next appointed time. When does the month begin? So we've got all of these different ideas of when the month begins. So we can see there's a whole host of reasons now that we can cause more division. Now, let me ask you, would it be in the devil's interest to cause division in the body?
Absolutely.
There's
Absolutely.
no question. The yearly now has become an issue. So when does the year begin? Because the beginning of the year sets the dates for the feast. So
Yes.
so the timing issue is a huge issue.
Right.
And I know I've looked into at least six different ways to establish when the feasts are, when the year starts, and so on. And the interesting part is that all of these, I would say all of them, or the majority of them, have a little bit of truth in them. I mean, they would have to. Right? They would have to.
Yes.
Now, in my mind, the question has become, are we on the same calendar, the same 360-day calendar that we started out on at creation? Because that's when the feasts were given. So this, to me, it should tell us to just slow down a little bit. Things have changed in regard to the calendar. So maybe we're on a different calendar than when God actually gave the feasts in the first place. To me, that alone should create a little bit of latitude for all of us. I submit that there's certain aspects in these different understanding of the feast that if we could pull out the truth of all of those, we might have the truth. So when we're talking about the 360-day calendar, there's ideas. We've got these extra biblical books, the Book of Enoch and Jubilees and so on, that talk about calendar issues and so on. It looks like that it was a 360-day year at the beginning of creation. We know that there's been some catastrophic events that have happened. Totally flip things on their head, so to speak. The flood would be one. We know that there was some really incredible things that happened that could have changed things. We know at the time of the flood that Noah talked about 5 months. The rain started on the second month, on the 17th day, and it ended on the 7th month of the 17th day, and that was 5 months, 150 days later.
Right.
So it looks like, and I've heard different ideas on what that actually means, and that's fine. But we can take it for what it says, and it was a 5-month period that had 150 days that were involved in it. So if we can take that possibly as saying that a 5-month period had 150 days, just straight up, just like that.
Right.
Well, that would mean that these are 30-day months, and we would have a period of a 1-year period of 360 days.
Correct.
In that period. Now, in the prophecies, they seem to indicate that we're going to finish up on that same kind of calendar. All right? So we have a 1260-day period in the prophecies. We have a 3.5-year period, then the times and a half a time. And we also have 42 months. So if we equate those all together as 42 months being 3.5 years and a times and a half and 1,260 days, then that would mean we would have 30-day months.
Correct.
And we would have a 360-day year. Now, wouldn't it be fitting for God to finish this plan of his, this rescue mission of his, to bring us back to the original? Ultimately, that's his plan, to bring us back to where we started. Wouldn't it be fitting for him to switch the calendar back somehow?
I would think so.
Well, I think it would be in his
interest.
It would be in his interest, and he doesn't change.
That's
And
right.
and so he's going to revert back to what he established at the creation. I believe that. And there's different aspects. You know, the equinox thing would be solved if he did that. The timing of when the Sabbath is would be solved. How about if he did some miraculous thing like he did to the Egyptians, to show them exactly, or not the Egyptians, well, the Egyptians also and his people. If he did some miraculous thing like he provided twice as much
Correct.
on one day and then the next day was Sabbath, well, that would solve the lunar Sabbath people. It would solve our issue, which I believe the
Right.
Sabbath is on Saturday. It would do all that. And people say, well, he doesn't have to do that. Well, just a minute. He gave the Sabbath at creation. It was, I believe, followed all the way through. And it was passed down to the Hebrews.
Right.
There were
Yes, sir.
certain people, like I believe Moses, would have known which day the Sabbath was. It was no surprise to him when God did this miracle.
Right.
But he did it. Nevertheless, he did a supernatural thing to help people know when it was. Now, we are so far removed from that event. My question is it not possible for him who controls all things, made the stars, is it not possible that he could bring this whole thing back into its place in the heavens?
Yeah. I think he shows his people, Tom. You had said the Hebrews, and they were his people. I don't want to take us down another rabbit trail, but it's when the time comes, us that are his people will know what day it is. I think it'll be pretty obvious.
He may do something supernatural to do
Right,
it.
right.
And we're given clues. I believe we're given clues. Let's take the time of Hezekiah. Hezekiah, there was a little sundial. Everyone knows that. He moved it back 10 degrees. Now, that's a good study in itself. I've got a little bit of a more in-depth thing. It's called The Appointed Days of Bible Prophecy. It's a video. You can look at that. That gets into that a little bit. But it looks like there was a change possibly in the length of the year because of this backing up of the sundial. So that's one time when God supernaturally did something to the shadow, what that would cause in the heavens, a moving of the sun, a moving of the placement of the earth. Who knows what that caused, but there was a definite change there. Also in the prophecies, it indicates that not only Paul talks about in Hebrews chapter 12, that the heavens will shake and the earth. And it talks about in Luke, in the prophecies, it talks about there will be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars. And this could very well be the event that brings us back to this original calendar, which I believe.
Right.
So in saying this, and some people, well, that's a cop-out, you're just making an excuse not to follow a certain calendar. But I think it's actually allowing the Almighty to tell us when it is rather than us declaring when it is. And there's only so much we can get out of our study. And I think that God's going to do something to bring us back into sync. So what does that all mean to me? That means maybe we shouldn't cause divisions. I think that's where we started. Maybe we shouldn't be causing divisions prematurely for something like this before it's actually been revealed.
Yes. I think everybody will see when the time is correct.
If we're searching, I believe if we're searching God's will in this, that he's going to make it known to his people, just like he always has, just like he did to the Israelites.
Right.
and so on. He set them straight on when the calendar was, even though maybe some people already knew. It looks like, I would think Moses would have known, his family would have known. They were of the tribe of Levi, and they seemed to be pretty sincere people, and he made it clear to them. But he still reinforced it by the miracles. So I would not say that God will not make it known to his people supernaturally.
Yes.
So that's kind of what I'm looking at, this possibility. That's why we have to keep a certain time of the year. It's the best that we know. But I'm not going to stand up and say, oh, everyone's a heretic if they don't keep it at the same time as we do. I believe it's going to be worked out.
Yes, sir.
And there. So that calendar is definitely an issue. And I know we talked about a little, you had mentioned the sacrificial system. That is causing issue today as well. It's becoming more of an issue.
Yes. I hear people saying that they sacrifice lambs for Passover, and this would be a great study to present to our viewers. But so just so that they understand what I'm saying, it's that people are saying today that we need to sacrifice lambs, and my question to that would be, what was the Messiah's purpose on the cross? And if you want to expand a little bit, that would be fine, and then we could go from there.
Yeah, it's a great question, and this is where we go and we'll travel around a little bit and hear different ideas, and I'm definitely hearing that almost everywhere I go, and it's becoming an issue in the Messianic movement. In fact, I was on Facebook the other day, and somebody had asked the question, what do we do with our first fruits? Because that's in the law of Moses, in the Torah, what they were supposed to do. And then someone kind of responded and said, you know what? That should probably be left alone, because that's a means of causing division. And I kind of, okay, well, what is he talking about here? Well, that goes to, what am I going to sacrifice this animal, take it to a temple or so on, or whatever. So this is where that leads. So that kind of a question is going to bring out a lot of different ideas on what we should be doing with these animals, because a lot of the people are getting back to the land and living on tracts of land where they can have their own produce and have their own animals, and they're wondering what to do.
Right.
And this is where this is coming from. So the Passover lamb, like you said, I know people personally that are sacrificing Passover lambs, and our point here today is not to say whether that's wrong or not.
Correct.
But I do believe it's an issue that we're going to have to come to grips with it. I have my own position on whether it's right or wrong, or where it fits into this. And I think what we're going to do is we'll do a separate presentation on that, because Passover is coming, and the animal sacrificial system has to do with that. So that's a great topic. So what we're going to try and get to is this an issue that it's worth causing a division over, this issue that seems to be coming to the surface.
Right.
Well, I would say, this is what I would say about it. Whatever position you take on it, make sure you do a thorough research. Number one is, what was the purpose of the sacrificial system? So we've got to come to grips with what the purpose was for it. What was Yeshua's purpose in him coming to this world? And I think those are the central issues that we need to deal with. And there's places that we can go. The book of Hebrews is a good place to go and understand. And the interesting part, I've talked to people on both sides of this issue, and they both use the book of Hebrews. So we've got to make sure that we're interpreting things correctly, and so on. So this, while this is becoming an issue, I would like to say to people is to be careful and understand what you understand, because of it's a product of the study that you have done, and not the product of the study that somebody else has done. Very important. that we understand in our own minds of what the truth is because of where we've studied it and how we've studied it.
Yes, and that applies back to the original topic that we started in the divisions of the churches. Tom, what do you think about people that leave their fellowship and home church on their own?
Well, I mean, to have just a pat answer, I don't know if it would be fair. It would depend on why they left, of course. So maybe they had justification on why they left, why they felt that they couldn't fellowship with these people. So that's an important thing. And were there other people that left with them and so on? So there's other things that are involved. But if we're talking about someone that has just removed themselves from a fellowship, my question is, okay, where are they going to fellowship? Because we're told that the Sabbath is a holy convocation. The feasts are holy convocations. So to me, they're a holy convocation for a number of reasons. Number one, we help each other. We're all on a walk somewhere. Well, hopefully we're walking towards the kingdom. So God, in his wisdom, has set up a body. And I believe that's a safety net. The body is a safety net, because if I go and I just study the Bible all by myself, I can kind of get going in a different direction that may not be the right direction. And I've seen this before. I'm sure all of us have seen, wow, they're doing this. And so if a person becomes an island and they've got no one to bounce off what they're learning, I think a person can go astray doing that. God has brought the body together. He's brought gifts together in the body. And it says, till we all come to the unity, it's to build the body up. So if we resort back to our home as our, place of refuge, and we don't go out and we don't minister and we don't do these things, we're isolating ourselves. And I think that can be dangerous. I've seen that before with people. They get to understandings that I believe could be incorrect, or even the end may not be good where they go. So myself personally, I have to be involved in fellowship with others. And I believe the Holy Convocation, the Sabbath, the feasts were made for that, is to keep us on course, to encourage one another. I need you, and I can say this, I need you maybe as much as you need me. And that's what the body is. And we're told, Paul talks about the body and, the hand and the foot and the eyes and the ears and so on. It's not just a body made of ears or eyes or so on. We all need each other to be a part of that body. And the Holy Convocations, the Sabbaths, are where the body really comes together and does that. I think personally, we need the body. We can't separate ourselves from the body.
Tom, I agree with you. It's been my experience that if you don't have more than yourself reading the Word, that you can interpret it in just a number of ways, and then you can go off sort of like the blind leading the blind, and somebody has to correct you and get you back on track. And although this is the Word of God, our interpretations aren't always correct. If you put yourself in a vacuum, then how do you learn? We have to have fellowship. That is the church. That's what Yeshua says. So for us to just pull ourselves away, I feel like there could be some serious consequences.
Yeah. And our Father is a father of family and relationships, and the body is where relationships are built. And I can't say enough about that. It's a place of encouragement, it's a place of instruction, it's a place to build people up, and so on. It's just such an important piece of this puzzle that we're putting together. We can't overestimate the power of the body to build individuals up.
Yes, sir. Are there any other thoughts that you might have that you would like to add before we end it?
Right. Yeah. We've talked about division, and it's something that we don't want to do. There's a couple aspects with it. of course, the enemy would like to divide, because if you can divide an army and get it fighting against itself, it's not going to stand. Yeshua told us about that. And so we want to be careful about causing division. But division in and of itself may not be a negative thing, because it says that there was a division concerning him. That's Yeshua. So, that's in the book of John. And it says that. So there was divisions over what Yeshua was doing, what he was saying, and so on. So just because there's a division, just because a group may split, there may very well be a good reason for it. So I don't want to bring it to the idea, and I've heard it said, well, that if there's a division, then it's of the devil. Well, not necessarily. There may be an issue that we're dealing with that may be worth dividing over. Like I said, like I started, there's lines that I have in my own mind that I won't cross. I will separate myself from a group if they're teaching something. Now let's have some ground rules then. So what would constitute a fellowship that I would feel safe in? Number one, we've got to be looking at the whole Bible. We've got to have the Torah involved. We've got to have the New Testament. We've got to have the whole book from Genesis to Revelation.
Yes.
And I would say that would be the main thing. Yeshua is the Messiah. He came. He died for my sins, that I might have life and have it abundantly and eternally. Yes. So that's got to be there. Now, it also says that anyone that doesn't believe that Yeshua has come in the flesh is of the Antichrist. I would like to submit that many people don't understand what that means, because evidently it was a major thing. John talks about that. He brings that up a few times, Yeshua coming in the flesh. Why was that such a big deal? That is also a dividing line, is that how we look at who Yeshua was. And this is something that people could divide over too. So there are some issues that we need to have ground rules, that if a person doesn't accept that,
I agree.
These things, these fundamental things, then maybe it would be a point to divide over. Say if a person believed that it was important to keep the Sabbath, but not important to keep the feasts and so on. These are things, they can grow into it, and we have to allow people to grow into truth. So I would say it wouldn't be a reason for me not to fellowship with a person just because they don't believe in the feast.
Right.
Give them time. The book of Acts, chapter 15, is a very good tool for us to understand how that works. And these people were going to be learning. They were going to come to a knowledge. So just because a person doesn't see it the way I do as far as the feasts and so on, maybe even diet, as they fellowship, people learn. And so dividing is not the best choice. Let's grow together. Let's encourage each other and stay as a body. We have a common enemy. We all have a common enemy, and we can unite on that fact alone. Yeah.
Tom, thank you very much.
Thank you.